Hi, and welcome to episode number 56 of Basha's Thoughts. So, my thoughts lately have been around judgment. And because judgment is so strong in our society, in this episode I thought it would be interesting to have a look at it and to try to understand what the problem with judgment actually is. Because if we can better understand and see and feel how judgment is actually hurting us, actually removing us from that which feels alive, from that which is important to us, how it is creating a type of shell, and we are not able to move outside of it. And it is all self-imposed in a way, usually in a way that is not actually deliberately chosen, and yet it can be changed. So if we understand that, perhaps it will be easier for us to feel more inspired by other ways of being and exploring other ways of being. So, that said, I imagine that it is quite easy for most of us to come up with a case for judgment, why judgment is interesting. So, by judgment I mean the idea of good and bad, judging what is good and bad, what is right and what is wrong. Now, this is different from discernment in the sense that judgment often carries a type of emotional charge with it. If you think about it, when something is good or bad, it carries a charge with it. When you say, well, this is right, that is wrong, if someone does something that is wrong, well, then your whole body responds in a way, and you want to attack or defend. This is actually one of the reasons why judgment is problematic, because it very quickly ties into violence. So discernment has to do with discerning, with finding, understanding a difference between things. You see, oh, this window is round, the other window is square. It doesn't mean that one is right, one is wrong, one is good, one is bad. So you can discern, you can see the differences, and paying attention and finding these differences is essential for us as human beings. It is very important, but it does not contain the emotional charge of judgment. Cases for judgment are often made by saying that, well, without knowing what is good and what is bad, you cannot be a good person. You cannot lead a good life. You cannot have any kind of ethics. What kinds of morals would you have if you couldn't discern between good and bad? And so in society, we have a society where there are places where judgment is incentivized in a number of ways. Certain religious groups will focus quite heavily on judgment and will therefore praise judgment. Praise itself, as we spoke in other episodes, is something that leads to violence. And we can also find inclusion, because when we do judge in the way that we are supposed to judge according to our group, we will be included in it. And it doesn't have to be around religious ideas. It can be even a group of people who tend to gossip. If you have friends and you bond by gossiping, well, then that can feel like a great relief, because you feel better about yourself. Because then you feel that when you judge yourself, you're not quite as bad as the other person. And so there's a relief, and there's a bonding that seems to be going on between you and the other people who judge, negatively whatever it is that you're gossiping about. So our society seems to be favorable to those who judge. Judgment is incentivized, and you seem to gain little things when you judge. And you can have everything based on a deeper theory of ethics and idea of being a good person, and so on. And living this way, after a while, it becomes a part of our reality, what we believe to be our reality. And so judgment then is not something that we create. It is something that we see out there in the world. The world is full of unjust people, stupid people, even stupid things, wrong people, people doing wrong things and bad things. It's just the way we, after a while, see the world, not quite realizing that this is something that we're actually making up in our mind. Judgment comes from us. Judgment is a part of the paradigm that leads to a lot of suffering. It leads to violence and the type of world that we're seeing right now. And at this moment, we're seeing problems escalate. And because of how fast everything is evolving, because of how fast technology is evolving right now, so that technology is developing new technology, and then that escalates. So we now have programs or artificial intelligence resolving problems that we were not able to resolve, finding solutions that we were not able to find, seeing patterns that were not noticeable to us, finding ways of doing things that we never thought of, but actually work even better for certain problems. And so because of this fast evolution or development of technology, as we've spoken about before, all risks are also accelerated. And because it is all based on how we act and the paradigm of trying to get an advantage, trying to win while making the other lose, a separation, because we are basing our technology on this competitive, violent way of being, well, that is now leading our world into destruction in many different ways. So, looking for a solution, we find that a win-win solution, a non-competitive solution, where you're always looking for that which will bring the best for all, because you truly want it, because you want life to be wonderful. Well, when we are looking for that, we will notice that this is not really possible to do unless there is a fundamental shift in our fundamental way of being, seeing things, and reacting to things because of how we see things, because of what we deeply desire and how we work. And so it is possible to find a non-violent solution, but that solution does not involve judgment. So judgment is one of those things that it will be advisable to move away from in order for us to be happier and able to work in a way that is best for all. And being best for all means being best for all, including you. It does not mean a compromise. It does not mean that what is best for me is one thing, but I will compromise to do something else that is a little bit less good. All based on judgment. Instead, what is best for all is that which actually inspires all. So these are the solutions that we're looking for. But in order to be able to work in that paradigm, we need to work on ourselves in the sense of finding our natural way of being, because this violent paradigm that we're living in is not something that is natural to us. We have spent countless hours learning to enjoy violence and learning to judge. This isn't natural to us. And yet, it is normal in our society now. So what we're looking for is a way of moving back to what is natural. And on that journey, we move beyond judgment. So what is judgment doing to us actually? Well, if you notice, judgment will take you away from what you're feeling. It will take you away from what you're experiencing in the moment, what is actually physically and emotionally going on right now, and it will take you up into your mind. And so moving beyond judgment, moving beyond what is good and bad, is actually moving beyond the mind, living from your heart more than your mind. You still want to use your mind, you use it for discernment, but you place that discernment in your heart so that it's protected by your heart, and there is no judgment. There is discernment, which is helpful, but you're living from your heart. This is why you will often find in mystical traditions and old books the idea of letting the mind move into the heart. You find it in Christianity, and you find it in ancient Veda books. And what is the problem of living in your mind more than in your heart? In our society, it might be a good idea. We might think, well, then we are just smart because we are living a more scientific type of life where we're coming from what is logical, what is rational, and that is good. But that becomes a very limited way of living. And indeed, it moves us away from what is wisdom. Because in a mind-centered way, you think that wisdom is pretty much knowledge or information. The more you know, the better, right? And yet wisdom is not about how much you know. It is how deeply and fully you know. So it is another dimension. And that dimension is not deeply explored whenever you limit yourself to living in and from your mind. When you live from your mind, you're not living in the present moment. You're living in your thoughts, and your thoughts are limited and always about something. Quite often, this is how we move into the past or the future, and then manifest feelings that have to do with those ideas. So we are living in a world of our creation. We may be crying about something that happened in the past, or we might be worried about something in the future. Unfortunately, often we are drawn to the negative, and so we will tend to suffer more than we need to. We could, of course, be making up beautiful future scenarios and living in a way that is much more pleasant to us, but the way we are wired for survival, there tends to be a preference of the negative, just because we think that it will keep us safe. If I worry now, then maybe I will be able to prevent something. Thus, thinking and judging, especially, moves us into a world that is very stagnant, because we get our ideas of what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, and then we place labels on things. And so something happens, and when something happens, it has so many dimensions and layers. It can be beautiful in many ways, and yet, if we have a judgment about it, we will only see that judgment. We will not let our heart become open to something that we feel is wrong. Think about it. If you think about a person who might have done something that you felt was wrong, perhaps it was a person that you felt really positively about before, and so you were actually able to see nice and good and beautiful things about that person. And then they did something that was very, very wrong in your eyes. And now, when you look at them, it is as if everything they do and say is now colored by this wrongness that you have put as a label upon them. You can no longer see the beautiful things in them. You can no longer feel happy about things. Instead, you automatically look for something that might indicate that you are actually quite right in saying that they are wrong. And even though it might look as though they are trying to be nice, it's only because they are trying to do something, maybe manipulate you, maybe. And so it becomes very difficult to actually see what is going on in the moment, because it's all tainted by the label that we have put upon them. So judging and living from the mind removes us from the present moment and the present experience. It removes us from what we are feeling, because what we are feeling becomes tainted by our labels that we have put on things. This becomes like a shell around your body that limits you, limits your feelings. Maybe you would like to open your heart and feel something more, but then you think, oh, but this person is really bad. Oh, but they only hurt others, and so you close down repeatedly. We do this with others when it comes to feeling good and feeling whatever it is that's going on related to others, and when it comes to ourselves, because, of course, we judge ourselves as well. We have that internal critic that is telling us or making us feel inside when we are wrong. And that is also a violent reaction that is based around judgment, that is related to us living from our mind. And this limitation puts a limitation on the logical parts of us as well, because we are no longer able to actually be in the present moment, to actually take in what is going on. We are not able to experience the beauty of the moment, the magic of the moment, but also we are not able to actually see all the details that would make it possible for us to change the situation so that it would be quite wonderful. So we are not able to find the best solutions. When you're competing, you're not able to find the best solutions. And this is indeed the predicament that we find ourselves in worldwide at this moment. So we are not able to see the beauty of the world. We are not able to find the best solutions for all, including especially for ourselves. And the way that we act and react reinforces the problems that we're seeing in the world and the violence that we're living in the world. Thinking in general is pretty much based on separation. So this is why it needs to be anchored in the heart, which is a unitive way of being. Separation and living in separation is quite painful and not natural to us. But if we can, again, move the mind into the heart and anchor it in the heart, we can find unitive ways of being and reacting and acting in the world. So how do we move out? How do we stop judging? If it is now a part of our reality, if it's just what we see when we see things and people, we see the wrong and the bad and the good sometimes. How do we change? How do we become more wise? How do we use more of ourselves than just our mind? How do we move into wisdom and not just knowledge or storage of information that can be related? To start with, we can notice that judgment physically brings about a type of constriction, a type of tension. Think about it. The easiest way is to find something that you judge very strongly as bad. When you say, "This is so bad," and try to focus on what that actually feels like in your body, you will notice that somewhere in your body there is tension. Something in your body might feel like there's a block, like there's something solid, maybe in your throat, maybe in your chest, maybe in a part of your head or other part of your body. This, just the noticing of what it feels like to judge, is the first step in moving into wisdom, because you're starting to actually also use your body, feel your body, be in your body. So that's a tiny step in the direction of becoming wiser, because that's where you can develop a part of your wisdom and make the information that you have and the knowledge anchored in something even deeper than just information. So the first idea is to take something that is very strong for you, a strong judgment, and try to find where you feel that in your body. Then take something else, something different that you judge, and try to identify where you feel that in your body. After a while, you will notice what you tend to do, how you tend to judge in your body. And in the beginning, that is all you can do, because you don't really have the power to not judge, and that's fine. A way of moving away from judgment is to use meditation and this idea of observing things. Just observe what comes up for you. And if you do this long enough, you will actually be able to observe where your thoughts come from, what originates your thoughts, what kinds of tensions you have related to them. And in your meditation practice, you can use openness, you can let go. This is what you usually do in the beginning of a meditation, especially if you've never meditated before. You might do a relaxation exercise where you go through the different muscles in your body and relax every part. You might use your breath to relax every part. And then you might move into relaxing your thoughts, letting go of your thoughts, relaxing your feelings, letting go of them, and just surrendering. And this is a practice that is still used in Christianity a lot, where you surrender to God, surrender to something that is larger than yourself. Just surrendering and letting go is a beautiful practice that will allow you to open up to feeling more the present moment and not having the present moment be constructed from preset judgments about what is going on. Instead, you will be able and open to feeling other things. So that is a beautiful practice that over time is extremely interesting, because your whole perspective will be shifting little by little, and you will be moving more into wisdom as well. And then you will notice in your life that you actually have a choice sometimes to judge or not to judge. You will be able to feel the moment before. In the beginning, you will be able to feel, oh, I'm moving into judgment, and you can't stop it. But that's fine. Still, you're able to notice it. That's wonderful. And after some time, you will actually have gathered up enough energy so that you will actually be able to choose and say, you know what? I think I'm going to be open. I think I'm going to stay open. So just staying open, moving back into your body, is quite a transformative practice if you are able to do it and do it again and again. And the more time you spend in meditation, where you're moving away from all objects, letting go of all objects, all ideas, all feelings, and moving deeper and deeper into your essence, the more you practice this, the more comfortable you become in that state, and the more that feels like home to you, the more you identify with it. Or in other words, the more you are able to let go of identifications with any objective ways of being, objective roles that you may be playing. And then it becomes so much more playful. Every role you play is a role you play. It's not you. And moving into that, into who you truly are, is something that will automatically start moving you away from judgment. So, to sum up, judgment is an integral way of our violent society, which is now leading us into self-extinction. Finding a different way of being, a win-win type of situation, is something that can change everything. But in order to do that, we need to change ourselves. That change will not come from politicians by driving a certain type of politics, or by companies changing in a particular way. Yes, you can make little changes like that, but it will not change the basic underlying problem. That we can change. That's why every one of us is essential and important. We can change our basic way of being, and that includes judgment. So by moving away from living from the mind and starting to live beyond the mind, anchoring the mind in our heart, by practicing opening, by practicing being, pure being, without identification, without clinging to objects, just being, is something that will automatically, slowly start moving us away from judgment. And it will anchor our mind in our heart as we start living from our essence, from that which is natural to us. So that was it for today. I might talk to you again in another podcast episode. Take care.